recording to the cloud. I think that's the problem. All right, I think we are go. Did you guys get a notification to say it's being recorded? Anyone confirm or deny? Yes? Okay, beautiful. All right. Thank you for joining me today. Great to have you here. I am going to do a bit of a recap on last week's because for whatever reason, I don't know what happened. It just was playing up. So I do want to do a bit of a recap for last week, and so I am using a different computer, so it's always fun. Okay, recap. This is my official start of the recap. If you find that you've got some questions as we're going, please pop them in the chat or wait till the end. We'll do a Q&A at the end. But I'm here to answer your questions, or if we don't get to it today, in the reset group, there is the Q&A, the questions thread. So just pop it in there, okay? And I will get to you. So last week we talked about why movement needs fuel. We talked about movement being a physiological stress to the body, and that we need to ensure that we are getting the right timing of our fuel, we're getting enough of the fuel. And I asked those who were on the call last week to jump onto the Australian Guide to Healthy Eating on the calculators and work out what their macronutrient intake should look like. Or if they're using the Fit Plus app, you can jump in there and use that as a guide as well. In all my years in fitness and nutrition, the biggest issue that I had, particularly with the women, is not eating enough. Okay, less is not more. If we are not fueling properly for day to day and then adding some on top of that when we are exercising, then we're putting ourselves into a deficit. And deficit, not meaning a caloric deficit, I'm meaning a macro deficit where we're not giving our body what it needs to do what it is, the changes that we want to see in ourselves. So this is a really big thing. Underfueling will lead to fatigue. It'll lead to really poor recovery. That hormone disruption happens as well because we stay in that fight or flight. We don't get to move through. So we did touch on that last week. And I have had some questions since, which has been great. Now, the science. I always love to tell you this is not just my ideas. This is definitely science-based, and everything that I share with you is science-based. And I talked last week a little bit around the work of Dr. Stacey Sams, who's someone that I have had the privilege of working with. She is a genius. She has really, really taken women's nutrition and movement to the forefront. She has a TED Talk called Women Are Not Small Men. Go and have a look at it. And she's talking about the fact that the majority of the research that we have, the things that we are told to do, whether it be by celebrity trainers or TikTokers or whatever, a lot of it is based on science that is based on men who have been in a fasted state. Okay, so it hasn't been on women. And so the science behind what women need is really coming to the forefront, and Stacey is very much leading that charge, which is awesome. She is brilliant. She is working out of New Zealand at the moment and is American. So she has a YouTube channel. She has all of the socials, and she does snippets of information, really worthwhile jumping on and having a look to what she says. But what one thing that she's really bringing home is that fasted state training for women is not a good idea. We must have something in our guts before we actually start movement. So the idea of getting up and doing, 20 minutes on an empty stomach, which was definitely part of what I used to preach before, in a previous life when I was training people. It's not working for women because the reason for that is, as women, we are waking up with elevated cortisol. It's just who we are. It's just how our hormones are. And then when we don't eat, we increase cortisol, and then we add exercise, we increase cortisol even more. And cortisol puts us into our sympathetic nervous system, our fight or flight. And when we are in fight or flight, our body will not adapt. Our body will not really take into account anything that we're doing. In our mind, we're trying to get fitter and stronger and maybe drop some kilos. But our body is going, we are in fight or flight. There's something chasing us. We need to know that there's food coming in before we're ready to release anything. Okay, so that is a little bit about what we talked about. So the other thing that I really want to make sure is not only are we eating a little bit before, can be 2 tablespoons of Greek yogurt, can be, I do a handful of nuts and pepitas. It can be a complete shake. It can be half a perform shake. Depends on what you're doing and you know, the digestibility. So if you're going for a run, something really easy to digest is really good. If you're doing something a little bit heavy lifting or a gym workout, you know, something that gives you a little bit more substance. And then the most important part, ladies, is we must eat protein at least 30 grams within 30 minutes after our exercise. So for me personally, I'm always doing a perform shake with a scoop of chocolate complete because I love the taste of it, my cherry ripe delight. Post-workout, and that is my 33 grams of protein in my shaker as I'm leaving the gym. Okay, so find what works for you. And I'm not suggesting that we just do perform. It could be some eggs. It could be, we'll talk about protein in a minute. It could be whatever is best for you. If you're heading off to work, you know, a shake is easy as you're driving. But if you're going back home and you've got time to create a meal that you are consuming, then I definitely suggest, you know, taking that time to have that. Eggs and nuts and seeds are all great options as well. We need to be breaking our protein up during the day. Let's talk about protein because it's also one of my favorite things to talk about. Why, Fee? Why do you want to talk about protein? Because we are not getting enough. We're really not getting enough. We're not getting enough protein. We're not getting enough fiber. Women are generally under-resourced when it comes to protein. And when you think about what 30 grams of protein looks like, and I've got a bit of a cheat sheet there, you know, a cup of egg whites, not one, but a cup of egg whites. So it might be 3 or 4 eggs will give you 30 grams of protein. Okay, so depending on the size of your eggs, obviously. And like, look at the meat. Okay, it's a 120 to 130 gram serve of meat, whether it's chicken breast or it's beef, whatever it is. We're still looking at that 120 to 130 gram piece of meat to get 30 grams of protein out of that serving. Okay, so a lot of people have said to me in the past, you know, oh, well, I'm eating a 120 gram steak at night. It's like, yeah, but that's not 120 grams of protein. And the other thing is, our body doesn't store protein very efficiently. It uses it. It's using it for muscle protein synthesis and stabilizing our blood glucose. It's at work once we've consumed it. It's not storing it. We need to make sure that we have our 120 odd grams of protein across the day. This is really important. Okay, your protein in your morning, your protein in during the day, and your protein at night. And for me personally, if I have a really big lunch and I know I've been good with my protein, maybe a perform shake is what I'm topping up the, you know, bookending my day with, because it's convenient and of heading out the door, but I'm not missing it. Okay, and a lot of women consider protein a bit of a once a day job. You know, maybe it's meat and 3 veg at night, but as you've seen, a 120 gram steak is only going to give you 30 grams of protein, and we need about 120 grams. But work out what your requirement is for protein. Use that calculator, use the Fit Plus app, whatever you're using to work it out. And as I said last week, you know, the calculators on the Australian Guide to Healthy Eating are baseline. Okay, your needs might be a little bit more. And I'm always open to seeing what it's spat out for you and see if I can help you. So protein, super, super important. Hydration, very important. So if you weren't on the call last week, you would have noticed some people going, is this salt right? Is that salt right? In our reset group, why are they talking about salt? Because I was talking about absorption of the water when we drink it. Like drinking water is very, very important. But when we are not pairing that with some sodium, our sodium potassium pump in our gut is not getting to hydrate the cells. It's not able to pull the water across into the cells. Okay, so we need a little bit of sodium to help that come across. So I was saying last week, putting in a little bit of Himalayan pink salt, Celtic sea salt into my water bottle. Sometimes I'll add a little bit of beetroot juice as well. In fact, true story, my son, basketballer, from the time he was probably 8 to the time he was, I think I got away with it until he was about 12 or 13. All his mates were drinking Gatorade on the bench. 8-year-olds don't need Gatorade, but I would make his, and it would just be a bit of Celtic sea salt and a little bit of beetroot juice. It was red. He thought he was having what everyone else was having. I got away with it for a long time. But the point is, it gave him what he needed for the exercise that he was doing, but without all the addedness to the product. So just making sure that you're getting hydration and that it's able to absorb, very, very important. So a little tiny bit of sodium in your water goes a long, long way. It also will stop the bloating. It'll also stop you having to run to the bathroom all the time, because you've increased that water intake. When you've got a little bit of sodium in it, it's pulling it across into the cells, not taking it straight to the bladder. And then we talked about fiber and carbs. And fiber, as I said last week, often very misunderstood. People don't really they think of fiber, they think of bread, they think of carbs, they think of pasta. I want you to think only of plants. Okay, we can only get fiber from plants traditionally. Sure, they've got added fiber to this and added fiber to that, but fiber only comes from plants. And when I'm talking carbs, I'm talking about plant-based carbohydrates, whole food-based carbohydrates, not necessarily processed carbohydrates. And we talked a little bit about GLP-1, the glucagon-like peptide 1. Lots of fuss about that over the last 6 months with Ozempic coming onto the market. And then there's been a plethora of other GLP-1 mimickers coming on into the market through pharmaceuticals. They have their place in a clinical setting. They have their place where people are really struggling with weight loss and metabolic health syndrome, diabetes. They definitely have a spot. However, our body has a GLP-1 signaling process, but it's only switched on when we're eating fiber and plants. Okay, it's very important because fiber feeds our gut microbes, and they are directly involved in GLP-1 signaling. Whole food carbohydrates will provide the energy to the muscles and the brain we need for movement, but that also contributes to that gut-brain communication. And so the GLP-1 is released from the gut when we eat fiber, protein, and whole food carbohydrates. It's sending the signal to the brain to say, stop eating. I've had enough. It's satiety. I'm there. It slows gastric emptying. Okay. It actually helps our body to digest the food properly. And it helps regulate our blood glucose by supporting our insulin response. So for people who have got compromised health, absolutely. You know, a GLP-1 mimicker is a great starter. Has a lot of interesting side effects, nausea, vomiting, just not hungry for days, which okay, that's like overkill of satiety, because we need food, right? We need food to function. But we can switch on our own GLP-1 if we just eat the right foods and give our body what it needs. It will know what to do, and then everything starts to work a little bit better. So real food. Okay, so let's talk about where we are now. So week 1 and week 2, what's going on over days kind of 3 to 10 is very much where participants will feeling maybe a little bit worse than better. And of course, that's not indicating any kind of failure. It's actually just a reflection of the physiological recalibration that is happening in your body. Your body's going, okay, where is those stimulants that we had? Where is the sugar, the alcohol, the caffeine, the ultra-processed foods, if they have been part of your diet in the past? And your body's no longer relying on those. It's learning its new normal. And while we are kind of numbing those stimulant inputs that are normally coming in, our body is recalibrating, and sometimes we feel a little bit ick until the improvement starts. So we're kind of, our health, we might think we're here. Our health is probably down a little bit lower because we've been consuming some things that our body's been relying on. All of a sudden, bang, we take them out. We just go down. But then as we start to improve, it will come back up. We will start to feel a little bit better. Because those things, sugar, alcohol, caffeine, processed foods, they alter the dopamine signaling. That's our reward response, right? And it affects our stress hormone outputs. It's kind of like a little bit of temporary discomfort at the moment while we are re-regulating. So common symptoms over the next few days could be headaches, it could be fatigue, it could be just irritability, just feeling not yourself, low blood sugar. But basically, we're just recalibrating and resensitizing ourselves back to the norm. Gut systems, the symptoms that can frequently reflect in this time could be because of the increased fiber intake, so you're eating more plants, and your microbiome is adapting. The great thing about the gut microbiome is within 24, 48 hours, we can actually really start to recolonize, knock out the bad bugs, bring in the good guys. But sometimes that's going to give us bloating and gas, and we just feel, again, a bit ick. So if you are feeling this right now, it's normal. Don't jump back to what makes you feel better, maybe the sugar and the caffeine and whatever. Maybe you're feeling like, oh, if I just had a sugar hit, I just had a caffeine hit, because that's not teaching the body the new normal. Okay, you're yo-yoing there. And this is kind of why yo-yo dieting is a thing, because people will stop what they've been doing. They'll start nurturing their body and giving it the nourishment they need, but in the process, the bad bugs might still be in there. Maybe they're getting a little bit of sugar from somewhere and they're going, no, you need, I don't know, a Big Mac and a sundae, and then we'll feel better. Who eats that? I'm sorry if you eat that. Yeah, but it could just be something that your body is telling you. Our body has the vagus nerve that runs, and our gut and brain connection is very, very real. And sometimes the right things are not in charge. If the gut bugs are in charge, and it's the bad gut bugs, they're telling the brain what it needs and what it should be reaching for. And I'm pretty sure right at the back of the pantry, there's another packet of Tim Tams. That's the gut telling the brain, go to the pantry and find the sugar. But if we can learn to switch that off, be gentle on yourself as you're going through this. Herbal tea is an awesome option after dinner if that's when your sugar cravings come in. And if you add a tiny bit of honey to it, or a cacao, like the cacao has that bitter sweetness to it anyway, and it feels like a treat, and it might just stop the brain. So if you are going through that right now, or if maybe you've got some people who are doing this reset with you, assure them that everything is going to be fine. If they continue along the way and get through these first 10 to 14 days, really, then the new normal will be very rewarding for them. All right. Priorities for this coming week is really making sure that we're doing mindful eating. I want you to think about that timing over tracking, like when are you eating? I'm not a faster, but I am a time restricted eater. Now, some people would say it's the same thing. I say it's not. But time restricted eating means I know that I'm eating maybe on a 16-8 routine. So I'm eating for 8 hours a day and I'm rest and digesting for 16 hours a day. Now that 8 hours has to work in with my schedule. At the moment, I'm traveling, so I'm not on a normal schedule, but my normal schedule will be have something at 4:45 in the morning. I'm usually either on the water or at the gym at 5. So I need to make sure I've fueled a little bit before. So my 8 hours starts at 5 a.m. Okay. But if you're not working out until 9, then maybe your eating window is starting at, 8:45 or 8:30. It depends on you. It depends when you want to move, because as I've explained to you, you need to be fueling your body before you move. But try and work out what your window is. And don't think that you have to go bang 16-8 straight away. Slowly bring yourself into it. If you've got families and you're working around, what that looks like and trying to juggle meals, you'll work it out for yourselves. And it doesn't have to be 16-8, okay? It doesn't have to be that number. You work out what's going to work best for you. When we talk around mindful eating basically means sitting down, no screens. Maybe you're having dinner together or eating a meal, sharing a meal with family or friends. It means that we are allowing our parasympathetic pathways to click in, which will support digestion, that satiety and signaling, okay, we've had enough. And it also helps our post-meal glucose levels, okay? So I want you to think about the Mediterranean diet for a second. There is a lot of people that talk into, if we just go to the Mediterranean diet, things will improve. There is a lot about that I agree with, but the biggest missing element about what happens in the Mediterranean that we don't do so well is stopping, connecting, and eating around a great big table. If you think of Tuscany and you think about, you see those great big long tables and everyone's sitting down and sharing a meal together. And if you've traveled through Europe, you know that siesta and afternoon time is like everyone stops. Everyone has their lunch together. People have their lunch together, or they don't start work till 11 o'clock some of the times because they have breakfast together. But mealtime is a shared connection time. And when we are eating and talking, we're not slamming our food down, right? We might have a mouthful, we're chewing, we're listening to someone tell us something, we're digesting, we're responding, the whole process of slowing down, that intentional eating and really taking time to connect. And if you're living alone, maybe your connection is really to yourself, okay? Just taking the time to enjoy. We used to do a meditation where it was silent eating. That we'd all come together and we'd have some fruit, and it's actually like, what am I tasting? What is the texture? What am I feeling? Your tongue has different places for different senses of taste. I don't know if you know that, but it's sweet in one area and it's sour, and I'm like, where am I tasting this on my tongue? What is this texture like? Who grew this? Where did this food come from? Like all of those, just mindfulness around your eating. Now, I'm not suggesting that you sit there and do that every meal, but just become a little bit more aware so that we're not eating on the run, okay? Slow things down, because we need to get out of our sympathetic nervous system. We need to come back down. So I really wanted to emphasize that because digestion is important, and the way we eat and digest food will determine where it ends up and how it nourishes our body. And if we calm and do something nice and slow and do it in a peaceful manner, then we're going to be able to get the best out of that food. So again, this week, timing over tracking, intentional eating, and sharing food and connection. So then, as always, a reminder to top up on your go-tos, making sure you're taking your capsules or your powders, whatever you are taking at the moment, making sure that you're bringing those into your daily routine, whatever that is for you. If you're on everything, great. If you're not, you're starting out, just making sure that you're taking them. And I cannot stress enough, when it comes to our capsules, if you read the label, it's 240 mils, one glass, one full cup per 2 capsules. There's a reason for that. They are so condensed with nutrients. The water helps them break down. Okay, so make sure you're consuming enough water with your capsules. Really, really important. That is all the references. You know me, you know I like to reference everything. I'm going to stop sharing that screen at the moment and pop back into the chat. Oh, you all disappeared on me. Hopefully you're still there. There you are. Okay. I just want to pop into the chat to see if there's any questions. If you have a question, I'm more than happy for you to come offline and ask me a question. Good. What would you recommend someone who's on a low salt diet for sodium and electrolytes? That is a really great question. When you say low, does that mean no or just low? If you're coupling your water intake with foods that have sodium in it, then that is definitely going to be a benefit. But also, I mean, it just depends on how you're taking your fluid intake. Not everybody is just going to be drinking water. There's, teas and smoothies and things like that food has sodium in it, as you would be aware. So definitely think about combining your water intake when you're having saltier foods. Crystal Stacey Sims, no E in Stacey, 1M. So that was that one. And someone can't find the calculator. So go to the Australian Guide to Healthy Eating, and at the top there would be just search calculators. And yeah, the question was, do you have your capsules as food before an early morning workout? No, definitely not. You definitely need to get some carbohydrates in. So you can have half a complete smoothie, perhaps, would be fine. Cool. That is all the questions. Does anyone have anything else that they wanted to check in? All right, ladies. Well, thank you for jumping on. Again, if your questions come up, pop them in the question thread in the reset page. I will jump in and answer those as soon as possible. Is there a Himalayan salt brand that is not good? Honestly, I only shop at a Whole Foods, so I'm not really sure what's out there, but just look for something that's only got Himalayan salt in it. Just look at the ingredients. But yeah, have a look at the labels. Reading labels is super important. So check in. Cool. Thank you all for joining me today. Wishing you all the best for this week of Reset. Reach out if I can help in any way. Otherwise, I will catch you on the next one.
Thanks, Faye.
See you guys. Bye.
Wow.